東京ゲームショー東京ゲームショー
Welcome to Tokyo Game Show.
Welcome to 東京ゲームショー Welcome to the game show.
3, 2, 1. Alice.
We're at the EA Showcase in Tokyo with American McGee here, and Alice Madness Returns. So, first of all, why did you want to return to Alice?
You know, it's been 10 years since we put out the first game on PC, and that first game did really, really well all over the world. We're here in Japan right now. The game's still selling in Japan. I mean, the culture here really embraced it, but everywhere else in the world as well, we had a fan base that just didn't let go. So 10 years went by. We built up a really great studio in Shanghai, and we went to EA and said to them, hey, we should do this again. They agreed, and we started it up.
Can you talk a little bit about the studio in Shanghai and why you opted to go for setting up a studio there?
Well, so it's a pretty long story. I've been out in China now for 6 years. I started in Hong Kong. I made a game there, which took about 2 years. And then I moved to Shanghai, and we started a studio. We did a game called American McGee's Grimm, and then we rolled that into Alice too. But, you know, in terms of the reason why, it was a sort of a long story of being in the States, kind of got tired of being there. I wanted to move out. Was given the opportunity to move to Hong Kong, and then took that, built a game there. And then somebody came and said, hey, we want you to build a game studio. We want you to make this Grimm project. And I told them I don't have a studio right now. You know, what do you want me to do? But I'd been going to Shanghai quite a lot, and so I had a lot of friends there in the game development community. And it just was a natural move to go from Hong Kong to Shanghai and start the studio there.
So we're a bit obsessed with genres in the video game industry. How would you describe Alice from a genre point of view?
I would say it's a very heavily narrative-driven action platformer. You know, it draws a lot of inspiration from titles like BioShock when it comes to the presentation of the narrative and how the character's dealing with the story elements in the game. But then if you look at things like Mario or Zelda, that's what you'll find where we get a lot of our combat and platforming from.
So, in speaking of that, you showed off a few new tools that Alice has at her disposal. Can you describe a little bit what they do and how you use them?
Well, yeah, today we were showing that she's come back. She's got her Vorpal Blade, which is the knife, and she's got a knife here. But we've also added to her arsenal a pepper grinder, which she's borrowed from the Duchess. In the original game, we had a Duchess in there, and she had a pepper grinder as a weapon. And a hobby horse, which sort of plays on the theme as toys as weapons, which we did in the first game as well. And then a teapot, which she's taking from the Mad Hatter's domain and uses as a weapon as well. Each one of them has a unique ability, and it's almost like a key that you use to unlock combat within the game. So the player who's really engaged in the game, they're going to be switching back and forth between weapons quite rapidly in order to use these like keys to unlock combat with the NPCs they're running into.
What is it about the story of Alice that you think captivates people over the years, and why you opted to set a game in that world?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really strong IP in that it's global. Everybody in the world knows it, from here in Japan to the Nordic regions to the US to China. Everybody has a version of Alice in Wonderland. They all know it really well. It's what they call a 4-quadrant, which means that it's male and female, young and old, anywhere in the world. And it's one of the best known stories in the world as well. So when we took the property to adapt it into a game, what we tried to do was really hold on to a lot of the core tenets, the foundations for what made it attractive. And for me personally, I think that that's about Alice as a main character. People, they go to see a film or they want to play a game or read a book with Alice is because she's a really, really attractive central character. And the way in which she uses Wonderland as an escape, as a part of her imagination, is also, I think, very attractive to people everywhere in the world.
What do you think of Tim Burton's movie?
Yeah, I saw the film, and I thought that there were many, many pieces of it which were really excellent. I mean, the art direction, the costumes, the music, I mean, even the acting by the individual parts was really good, but what I wasn't that excited about was the fact that it was a very diluted story and that it was not clear who the central character in that movie was. It was like, who's the hero? Is it the Hatter? Is it Johnny Depp? Or is it the Queen? Or is it Alice? So, I mean, again, when I think about an Alice story, I think that Alice should always be the central character. I thought it was a good film. Obviously, they made a lot of money, but if I had done that, I would have focused a lot more attention on Alice as a character.
but you keep those Mad Hatters and the Cheshire Cat in there. Will there be any surprises as well along the way, or how do you treat the property in that sense?
Well, yeah, I mean, we think that actually surprise and variety is one of the really strengths, the core strengths of the property. It's a game in which this one and also in the first game, you never saw the same thing twice. As you were moving through the game, you saw a huge variety of characters. This game has over 120 unique characters in it. You saw a lot of interesting domains and the art styles that went with them. Same thing here. Every time you go to a new domain, you see a whole new set of art, whole new art direction. Also, the way that you're engaging in the enemies, you're never seeing the same enemies twice. So variety is really what was central to the original fiction. It was very surreal, very different, and we think variety is what's going to make the new game really successful.
You mentioned a little bit that after the first game, Alice got sent to the madhouse, and now she's back in Wonderland. Will there be any sort of interaction between that world and Wonderland in the game?
Well, I mean, for people who played the first game, we've put a lot of hooks in there for them to kind of reconnect with what's in the second game. For people who didn't play the first game, we've created a new fiction which, while it's at the same time honoring that first product, also revisits a lot of those locations that were in the first game so that they can get connected with them for the first time. So I don't want to go into too much detail, but I can say that a lot of what you saw in the first game in terms of the locations and the characters, we're going to revisit those to reinforce those themes, but then there's a whole lot of new content as well.
And when are you aiming to be done?
2011, and it's a PC, PS3, and 360 title.
Thank you very much for your time.
Tell me of your Wonderland.